Hi, 2 papers done, 1 to go. So this is the predicted paper 3. Now, there is a little thing that I want to mention before we start this paper, and that is that I had to make some decisions, obviously, on what to include. There's still quite a bit left to test. And there were 1 or 2 things that I really would have liked to have got in, but being restricted to those 80 marks has meant I couldn't quite do it. So I've put a list of those at the end so that you've got those topics as well. And I plan to make another resource. It'll be like a little mini paper. It won't be another predicted paper, but it will be a paper that contains all those things I would have loved to have put in and just couldn't because of having to stick to 80 marks. All right, let's get on with this paper. Okay, question number 1. We've got to write 17% is a fraction. Percentage means out of 100, so it really is just writing it out of 100. Okay, 8.2 kilometers to meters. Now, there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, so we are going to be multiplying 8.2 by 1,000 to get our answer. The value of 7 is 7,000. Now, we've got to work out the value of n. Remember, we have a calculator. It's so easy not to use it. We can trial and error to find this answer. So, for example, I could put 2 to the power of 3 in my calculator, and I would get 8, which is too small. So then I could keep going until I find the right number that gets me that 32. So n is 5. And again, for question 5, we can do a very similar thing. We can try putting our brackets in different places until we're happy we have found the place that gives us the answer we're looking for. And that is where the brackets need to be for that question. Okay, we need to write down all the factors of 42. I love a factor bug. So 1 times 42, 2 times 21. And then you need to think, is it in the threes? You don't have to obviously do this in your head. Use your calculator. I'm going to be reminding you about this constantly. No, I won't, don't worry. But use your calculator to see if 42 is in the 3 times table. You will find that it is 3 times 14. It's not in the 4s or the 5s, but it is in the 6 and the 7. And then you just want to list it out nice and clearly on the dotted line. Okay, so we've got a list of 8 numbers. 1 is going to be selected at random, and we've got to mark with a cross the probability that the number selected will be 8. Now, when I look at those numbers, I can see that there are 3 8s. So I have 3 out of 8 as my probability for that working. Now, I've got to work out where 3 eighths is on the actual scale. At the moment, I've been given one that's been split into 2 sections, that half in the middle. Now, if I go roughly in the middle, I will get it into 4 sections, which is quarters. And then if I go again, I will split it into eighths. And I want 3 eighths. So 1, 2, 3. We're then being asked on the probability scale to mark with a cross the probability that the number will be 3 or 4. When I look at the list, there aren't any 3 or 4s. So it's impossible, which we represent with 0. Okay, we've got coordinates for question 8. We're going to write down the coordinates for P. Now remember, we go along the corridor first. So it's 2, 4. We're then being asked to plot the point -2, 0. So remember, along the corridor first, so -2. And then 0 means that we're not going to go up or down. We are literally on the line. We've been asked to label it Q, so we're going to do that. And then there's a third point that is plotted. And when all 3 points are joined, they make an isosceles triangle. And we're being asked to find a coordinate for that point R. Now, let's first of all think about what we know. Isosceles triangles have their tallest point exactly halfway from the base. So there's an example of an isosceles triangle, where the tallest point is halfway from its base. But how tall I choose to make it just depends on where I stop. I could have just dotted my line to there, joined it up, and that would have created an isosceles. I could have gone higher, and that would have created an isosceles. So what we're going to do on our grid is join our first edge together so that we can start to see this triangle. Now, if we follow the plan that we've just kind of looked at here, that would suggest that this will be the middle. We have 4 squares to get to that corner. So we'll go 4 squares and then we fall off the grid. So this isn't going to work. What they've actually done is they have rotated the isosceles within the grid. Let me show you what I mean by that. This was our original isosceles to get our head around what it was they were asking. Now, if I just rotate that round like this, what I've now done is I have created my base to be in a completely different position. I've actually created something that looks a lot like what we've got as our starting point. So what we need to do is find the middle, make sure that we move at a right angle from it, and then any point along this line would be a point that R could take. I could have gone in the opposite direction as well. So if I just choose one of those coordinates, let's say I'm going to go to this one here, then I would be writing down -2, 4 as my coordinate for R. But as you can see, any of the coordinates that I've highlighted in blue would work to give an isosceles triangle. So there were lots of options for that answer. Okay, we're being told the product of 2 prime numbers is 34. Now we need to know what product means, which is times. So 2 numbers were multiplied and those numbers were prime. So what we're going to do is look at the factors. We've got 1 and 34. We've got 2 and 17. And we're going to look for the ones that are prime. 2 is a prime number and 17 is a prime number. We know they multiply to make 34. So now we just have to do the sum. The sum is to add them. So our answer is 19. Our next question is a combination question. So we've just got to be systematic in our approach. So I'm going to start with soup, and I'm going to say that can then go with curry and brownie, but I'm staying with the soup, I'm staying with the curry, and then I'm going to put the apple. So I've changed one thing. And I'm going to keep going like that. I've done soup with all the curry options. So now I have my fish with brownie and my soup fish with apple pie. Repeating the whole process with the prawns. Now, it doesn't matter what order you get them down on the page, but what is important is that you get all 8 for the 2 marks. Okay, we've got a pictogram about gold bars. We can see that the symbol is representing 2,000 bars. And then we're being told that there are 30,000 in total and some information about golden vault making twice as many as gold standard. And we need to complete the pictogram. First thing I want to do is work out how much these businesses made. And I know that each symbol is 2,000. So that is 2. Another one is another 2, another 2, and that is half. Together that makes 7, and it's 1,000. I've got 222 here, which is 6,000. And I've got 2 here, which is 2,000. Now, when I add those together, I get 15,000. So 15,000 is already in the diagram. So I've got 30,000 in total. I'm going to take off 15,000, which leaves me 15,000. Now that 15,000 has to be represented by golden vault and gold standard. Now we're told that golden vault makes twice as many as gold standard. So when gold standard makes 1, golden vault makes 2. And together they make a total of 3. We actually want them to make 15,000 between them. So I've set this up to work as a ratio. What do I multiply 3 by to make to 15,000? That would be 5,000. So I do the same on this side of my split line. It's like finding my magic number. So it's split into 10,000 and 5,000. Now, you don't have to do it that way. I'm just demonstrating a method. So if the numbers were a bit more complicated, you would be able to work with them. Now, 10,000 divided by 2,000 is 5. So we're going to have 5 gold bars, and that's golden volt. Make sure you put it in the right place. And then 5,000 for gold standard. And there you have it. So we're being asked if Jack has done this piece of maths correctly. What we need to do is know the actual values of these so that we can see if this symbol is the correct symbol. Now, percent means out of 100, so we could write 34 over 100 times 84. Pop that in our calculator, and we get 28.56. Do the same with the other calculation. So 2/5 of 110, remember, of means times. That equals 44. He has used the less than symbol. 28.56 is less than 44. So yes, he's absolutely right with what he's done. If you're someone that really does struggle with these explain your answer style questions, I would always encourage you, just do the maths, because then you have shown your examiner you totally understand the maths in the question. You are just struggling to put it into words. But actually, 9 times out of 10 is once you've done the maths, the words, they come much easier. So that would be my top tip with that type of question. Okay, question 13. We've got lights costing £9.85 a pack. We've got 75 to spend, and we want to buy as many as possible. And last but not least, find out how much change he will get. So I'm going to divide the £75 by the cost per pack, which gives us 7.6, and on it goes. So that means that we can buy 7 packs. Now I'm going to take those 7 packs and times them by their cost so I can get my total cost. And that would be £68.95. That's my total cost, which I then just take away from the 75 to get my change. We have 160 people with a gym membership, and they were clearly asked some questions, and we have found out that 78 like to swim. So we're going to pop that information straight in to our frequency tree. And what that means is we can actually work out the missing value here. If 78 like to swim, then the rest of the 160 do not. So it's 160 take away that 78 to get our 82. We're then told that 112 people attend the classes. Now, this circle is in attend classes, and so is this one. So those circles together must add to 112. So that's how I'm going to jot that down so I don't forget it. 42 of the people who like to swim also attend the classes. So like to swim, attend classes, that is 42. With that in place, I can now work out this missing one and this missing one. These two must add to make my 78. So 78 take 42 is 36. And then these two add to make the 112. So 112 take away 42 is 70. And then that last one is just 82 take 70 to give us 12. Now, a person is chosen at random, and we've got to work out the probability that this person does not like swimming or attend classes. Does not like to swim, does not attend classes. That is 12 out of 160. That's the probability, and we're done. But I am going to quickly say something, because sometimes they don't ask for the probability. Sometimes they ask for the percentage. If they ask for the percentage, you actually do the exact same step. You create that fraction, but to finish it off, you would multiply through by 100, and then that would give you your percentage answer. Just thought I'd mention that because you never really know what type of question they're going to give you. Okay, question 15 is really testing how confident we are with our calculator. You want to use your fraction key and then type that in absolutely exactly how you see it, and you will get the correct answer. Now, it is a 2-mark question, and you may be unlucky and, I don't know, just hit a key wrong or just do something which actually pushes out the wrong answer. So my advice here is to just do a piece of the maths that you can see. You could just do the denominator. If you were to do that and pop your answer down, then you've guaranteed that 1 mark if something went horribly wrong here. Now, the second part is asking you to write your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So we've got our answer. Now, 3 significant figures means that you start counting as soon as you've got a digit with value. So I'm going to ignore that 0. I've got 1, 2, 3, cut. Always box the right-hand side. If it's 5 or more, which it is, then you add 1. So my answer is 0.489. Okay, we've got Danny going to Dan's supermarket in this question. So with this type of question, we've got a lot of information, so we need to just process through it just carefully, break it down, step-by-step kind of question. So we're told that potatoes in Dan's supermarket cost £5.44 for 8 kilograms. Now, if I take that information, divide the cost by kilograms, it will tell me how much 1 kilogram costs. And that's of potatoes. I like labeling. You've probably noticed that because sometimes we can start doing so much maths and then we go back to try and find a piece of information and it's lost. So a nice little label sorts that out. We're then told that Penny buys 20 kilograms of potatoes. Well, I know the price of one, so I can work out the price of those 20. So I'm going to go straight in and do that. She also buys 5 kilograms of carrots, and we've got the total cost. So if I take that total cost and take away the cost of my potatoes, I'll get the price that those carrots came to. So 5 kilograms of carrots are £2.35. I'm going to do the same that I did at the very first step and divide through so that I can work out what 1 kilogram is. Now, Danny is going to buy 3 kilograms of potatoes and 7 kilograms of carrots, and we want to know how much he pays. So 3 times the 1 kilogram of potatoes and 7 times the 1 kilogram for carrots. So we just add those to that final answer. Okay, so we've got a story about Aaron buying some scones, selling them on and making a profit. Now, just like the last question, we're going to take our time step by step and go through this maths. So we're being told that they are sold in packs of 6 for £2.80 each and that he buys 8 packs. So the first thing that we're going to do is work out the total cost. So 8 packs for £2.80 gives us our total cost of £22.40. He's selling them individually. So I need to know how many scones I've actually got. So 8 packs with 6 in each means that I've got 48 scones in total. And he's selling them for £1.25 each. So 48 times £1.25 means £60 is the total he made selling. I've got the total made. I've got the total cost. I can work out the difference to find out how much profit he made. Now, if you get a question like this, they might say percentage profit. It could be a percentage loss or change question. So they can use slightly different language. If you have to do a difference to work out that change, then you are using the difference formula to calculate that percentage. The difference formula is difference over the original, and then you times that through by 100 to create the percentage. So our difference, and I'm going to just write it above, was £37.60. Our cost, our original, was £22.40. Obviously, it's a fraction at this stage. That's why we have the times by 100 step. And when you throw that in, you will get 167.85 and on it goes. Give your answer correct to the nearest percentage, and we have 168%. Okay, so Jenny is buying a new mobile phone and she's considering these two offers. She wants to pay the least amount of money and we need to work out which deal she should choose. So let's look at Mobiles Direct first. We've got a monthly cost of £27 and a 2-year contract. So over the course of those 2 years, that'll be 24 monthly payments, which gives us 648. And then obviously you must remember to add on the upfront cost, which gives us a total of 678. For Phone Warehouse, we've been told that it's a monthly cost of £29. Now, there's a couple of ways we can process this at this stage. I could multiply this up by 24 so that I can make that comparison. I can't compare the prices until they've got everything kind of in the same timeline. And at the moment, we don't have that. So that's an option. Or I could come back to my Mobiles Direct and I could divide that through by 24, which I think is what I'm going to do. Then I've got that monthly cost and I can see that it is slightly cheaper. Okay, so Albert is 3 years older than Max. So if I knew Max's age, I would know Albert. Richie is twice Albert's age. So again, if I know Max, I know Albert and Richie. And I've got their combined ages. And I'm being asked to work out how old Richie is. And Max is the problem. If I had his number, his age, then I'd be good to go. I don't have his age. And when I don't have a number that I need in the maths, I use algebra. This is a form and solve equation style question. Very common to see them on shape, but you can get these worded versions as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that Max is an age I don't know. Albert is 3 years older. So he is that number plus 3. And then Richie is twice Albert. So we just got to double what we've written for Albert. Double everything. Now they're combined ages. So we're going to add all of these ages together. We've got a total of 4 x's, and then our 6 and 3 give us a total of 9. That combined algebra is the combined ages, which is 107. Now we've got our equation, we can go on and solve it. So we're going to take the 9 off, which will leave us 4x equaling 98. We're then going to divide through by 4 because that's going to get x on its own, which gives us 24.5. Now we have to work out how old Richie is. And if we go back and look at what we wrote, Richie is 2x plus 6. So he is 2 times 24.5 plus 6. We'll throw that in the calculator. Okay, a number M is rounded to 2 decimal places. Now, the best way to do error interval is using the number line. So I've got 8.47. That's going to go in the middle. It's 2 decimal places, so my number line is going to go up in 2 decimal places. So the next one would be 8.48, and the one before it would have been 8.46. And then I just want those numbers that are slap bang in the middle. So that would give me 8.465 and 8.475. Okay, we've got the plan and front elevation of a prism. We're being asked to draw the side elevation. Now, one of the things that you can do to help yourself with this question is to reproduce the original prism as kind of best you can. But my top tip here is use the front elevation. It's already drawn for you, and all you actually have to do is just pop on the plan. Now remember, the plan is that overhead view. you don't even need to be thinking that's what you're popping on. You can literally just be thinking, I'm going to create my 3D shape. And you can now see that the top of this 3D shape is split into two levels. And that is what the plan is showing us with this line here, that there is a split level going on. I can also get my dimensions. This is 2 and this is 2. And when I look at my plan, my 2's are here. So I now know how far back this 3D shape goes just by looking at this part of my plan. So it goes back 6. Now my side elevation is here. And I can see that that is split. So I have to make sure that my side elevation, when I draw it, shows that. I can also get the dimensions. I already know it's 6 that way, but I can also see that it is 6 this way. So I'm going to be drawing a 6 by 6 square to start off with, and then I'm going to get that split layer in. So I'm going to go back to that 3D that I created. I can see that it's 2 squares, and then I've got that split. So down 2, and then I'm going to pop in my split. And that is your side elevation. Okay, so Harry's building an extension, and it's going to take 8 builders 18 weeks. But the firm is going to provide 9. They're going to provide an extra person. So if you've got more hands, it's going to take less time. So we want to kind of get that so that we can make sure the answer that we end up with makes sense, because these questions can often go wrong. It's very similar to that machine style question that everybody loves so much. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply the 8 and the 18. What this is doing is it's telling us that it would take 144 weeks for one builder. I can then take the 144 and divide it by the 9 builders that I actually have, and that tells me it will take 16 weeks instead of 18. The next part of this is asking us to state an assumption that we've made. The type of answer that they're looking for here is that we are saying the 9th builder will work at the same rate as everybody else. Another assumption that we've made is that they are all going to work all of the time. No one's going to be ill. No one's on holiday. So as long as you make your answer fit with the context, make complete sense that it would affect our answer of 16 weeks, then it's going to be an acceptable response. Okay, now this question is a substitution. Now, as someone that has marked exam papers, I can tell you from experience that these types of questions are very common to appear on calculator papers, and they are very commonly not used. I have seen students do all of this by hand. You can tell they're doing it by hand. All right, remember you have your calculator. Remember to use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the letters with the numbers we've been given. So we've got 3, which is squashed to the P, so that means times 8 all over A, which is -5, and then you've got your plus 16. Do that step first, get that written so that that's clear, and then you can put the whole thing into your calculator if you want. You must remember to use your fraction key if you are going to do it that way to avoid any mistakes. And you would get 11.2. You could write down the fraction version if you want, but that would be the way to do it. Use your actual calculator. You can still do a little bit of working out along the way if you prefer. The next part of this question is asking us to rearrange the formula. We want to make P the subject. Now, the best starting point with a question like this is to swap them round. If I have to get P on its own, it makes much more sense for it to be this side of the equal sign because that puts it in my comfort zone. Now I'm going to hop like a normal equation. I'm going to move the plus 16 and it will land as -60. I'm going to tidy that up so I can see clearly what I've got left to do. I've got 3P divided by A, So divide by A goes next, and it lands as times by A. And this is where it could go wrong. Now you could just say I'm going to multiply the F by A. I'm going to multiply the negative 16 by A. And then that would give me FA take 16A. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you must remember that you have to multiply them both through. So I've rewritten this because there is a slightly different way that you may have taken, and that would be perfectly fine too. So again, we're dividing on this side, so we're timesing on this side. What you could do is say, I want all of this multiplied by A, and we generally pop that on the front. So you end up with 3P equaling A times all of this. And if you did that, that would be absolutely fine as well. To finish it off, we just divide through by the 3. And remember, when you're dividing through by that 3, you're dividing everything that's there. Okay, we haven't seen any transformations yet. So I've written a question that practices lots of these skills for that reason. It does make it feel like it's a much bigger question, but as we break it down and do it, it hopefully will feel okay. So the first line is telling us that shape A is reflected in the line x equals -1. So I'm going to pop that line on first, and then you can either use your tracing paper or you can use the counting method. So this corner is 3 squares in, so it will be 3 squares out. And that's the position of shape B. We're then rotating 90 degrees clockwise. Now, I have put a link on that takes you to a video that just shows you how to use that tracing paper for rotation. You really don't want to be rotating without it. We would be stabbing at -3. We would be marking that tracing paper so that as it twists, we know when to stop. And that tracing paper will show us exactly where to draw it. And that's our shape C. Now we have to describe the single transformation that maps shape A to shape C. All right, so I can see that shape A has slid into this position. It's moved horizontally and then it's moved vertically. So this is a translation in the vector, and we're going back to, and then we're going down to. So I said at the beginning that I had to make some choices and decisions, what to put in, what to leave out. And enlargement is part of this topic as well. It's not in this paper because this particular question enabled me to throw 3 skills at you. So when I do my little mini paper, I will make sure that there is an enlargement in that. But that's the type of thing that I was sort of alluding to at the beginning. Okay, so we've got a question where someone is investing their money into a savings account. It's paying compound interest over 5 years. So that interest means that we're getting an increase. We've got a percentage. So this is original times multiplier equals result. Our job is always the multiplier, remember. The original, 6,250. To find the multiplier, we do 100%. That's our original. We add 1.8% to it to get 101.8%, but we don't work in percentages, so we divide through by 100, and we've got 1.018. So 1.018 is our multiplier, and when we've got a period of time, that is a power on the multiplier. So in this question, we have power 5. And we literally just throw that in the calculator. Now we're being asked about how much interest she earned. So be careful. Make sure you read that last line and you're answering the question. We need to take off the original investment so that we can just get that interest. And that's the answer. Okay, we're being asked to expand and simplify. Now, I have written this on purpose. This commonly goes wrong by many, many students because they do x squared and then they do 3 squared, which is completely wrong. What we're actually looking at is this being multiplied by itself. That's what happens when we square a number. It multiplies by itself. So this is a sneaky way where they can write a double bracket question, which when it looks like that, you might be super confident to do. And it's just a way of hiding it, really. You will use the method that you have to expand this. And remember to multiply at every stage, and then the middle collects. If you don't recognize that method and you don't remember yours, the next most common one that people teach is a grid where you put your X and 3 on the top and down the side. I call that the nugget method. Okay, on to our indices. And again, we need to be very mindful. This is commonly answered incorrectly. Everything inside this bracket is being raised to the power of 3. I strongly recommend you show that so that you can see what it is you're doing. When you've got numbers, then you can do that maths. Your calculator will do that maths, and that tells me I've got 27. Then n raised to the power of 3 is nice and straightforward. And then you've got p to the minus 4, which is raised to the power of 3. The rule is you multiply, and that will give you p minus 12. And then you can just squash it all together, knowing you've got it. Perfect. Last one, we've got a division. So again, do it step by step. 45 divided by 9. Numbers first, letters second. Then we've got a to the 4 divided by a. Now the division rule is you take the powers. So we're going to be doing 4 take, and we've got an invisible 1, which means we end up with a to the 3. And then we've got that b squared over b minus 3. Take the powers means that you are going to be doing 2 take negative 3. All right, you've got to realize or spot or be aware that we're going to end up with this double negative. And the best way to do it is to write down the maths that you're planning to do, and then you can see it. So that will give us b to the 5. Okay, we have a Venn diagram. Now, this is another one where I was really torn on what to do. The probability tree diagram, which is pretty common in the foundation GCSE, hasn't come up yet, nor has Venn. The tree diagram was actually tested on the higher paper. Does that mean that just the Venn will come up, or will you get a tree diagram? And of course, we don't know. We can't second guess what or how they think. So I had to make a decision. I decided to go with the Venn, and I will make sure tree diagram is on my little extra resource for you guys. So we're being told that the universal set, so all the numbers that need to go into our diagram, lie between 0 and 17. Now, I have been particularly mean there. If you used 0 and 17, I can tell you now you've gone wrong. It says between these numbers, so we don't include them. When you can't see the numbers, I recommend you write them out, because then you won't miss any out. Now, A has multiples of 3. Again, we can't see those numbers, so let's write them out. And now we can start populating. So in the middle, we've got a pairing with the 3 and the 12. And into A go the leftover multiples of 3. And then I would cross my multiples of 3 off the main list. I'm now going to put the rest of B in, 2, 8, and 16, and cross those off. And now I can clearly see I have got 1, 4, 5, 7, 10, 11, 13, and 14 left. We are then being told that a number is chosen at random from the entire set, and we have to work out the probability of A, and then we've got this symbol B. Now, I look at that as the letter N, and I kind of almost read it as and. A and B is the middle section, giving me 2 out of 16. as my final answer. They commonly use this symbol as well. I see that as U for united. And when you've got U for united, then you've got everything across the three sections in those circles. Another one is a dash. The dash means not. So this would be saying not A. Everything else, but not A. And if that was the case, then we would be looking at those in B and anything on the outside. Now, they're not the only ones, but they are the most common ones. Okay, we are looking at two triangles that are mathematically similar. That means that they are an enlargement of each other. There is a scale factor that multiplies the smaller one up to the bigger one, or the bigger one down to the smaller one. We've got two edges that are given to us with values on. So this diagonal edge here and this diagonal edge here both have values, and that is going to help me get my scale factor. What do I multiply 9.2 by in order to get 11.5? So to work that out, I'm going to do the opposite and divide. That gives me 1.25. So the scale factor between these two triangles is 1.25. I'm being asked to work out the length of BC. So I'm after this. So what I could really use is the value on this edge, and I don't have that. But I do have a right-angled triangle. Pythagoras will help me find missing edges. So this is now turned into a problem that contains Pythag. And it's worth looking out for that. If they're going to hide it, they're going to pop it somewhere where it's not obvious. So I'm looking at the formula sheet and I'm seeing that it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b can be found easily by looking at the right angle. The right angle points to A and B. So my A, if you like, is my missing one, and my B is 3. I could put it the other way around, but if one of them's missing, I tend to use that one as the first one. I've now got, I'm going to move the 9 across. It will land as -9. And then I'm going to move that across and square root it. That's giving me 8.697, and on it goes. I'm just going to leave that sat on my calculator. I'm not going to round. I know that that has to be multiplied by 1.25 in order for me to get the missing edge that I'm after. And that equals 10.871. They want it to one decimal place, so 10.9 would be our answer there. Okay, so we're being asked to solve this quadratic. To solve this, we're going to use the skill of factorizing. When we factorize a quadratic with 3 terms, we generally have 2 brackets. We drop in the x, and then we look at what multiplies to make the last term. So we've got 1 in 12, 3 and 4, 6 and 2. I want to make this number in the middle. I want to make 8. So I look at my options. That's not going to help me make an 8. That isn't, but this is. I want to make positive 8. So I've got +6 and +2. 6 plus 2 makes 8. 6 times 2 makes 12. Now that is quite a straightforward factorizing question. Once you start bringing negatives in, it does start to get a little bit trickier. So I have popped a quick link that should come up on the screen. If you feel you're rusty there and you want to practice it, that will take you to a how-to video. So it'll give you an opportunity to do some practice. We, however, are not just factorizing, we are solving. It tells us it needs to equal 0. What I want to do now is to get each one of these brackets to equal 0 in turn. The reason that I want to do that is because this number, whatever it is If this number inside the bracket could be 0, it doesn't matter what we've got going on up there. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0. And of course, that would work the other way. If I had 0 here, doesn't matter what's happening here, because anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. So what does my x need to be in order for this bracket to equal 0? X would need to equal -6. And here, x would need to equal -2. And those are the solutions that they are looking for. Okay, our last question, a simultaneous equation. I'm just going to work my way through this, explaining as I go why I'm doing things. But again, if you're a little bit rusty, and I probably shouldn't promote this, but I'm going to, if this is something that you have never got your head around, I wouldn't be revising it for next week. 1, it might not even be there. And 2, for 3 marks, you should put your energy into areas where you're pretty good at it, but you know that it needs practice. You know you need to remind yourself so you don't go blank on the day. That's where you need to be, not trying to learn new things a week before the exam, and certainly not something that's quite complicated and only worth 3 marks. Anyway, that said, let's do this. First thing I'm going to do is get my x variables to match. I always do the x because it makes it easier. I've got a calculator, so I don't need to have to worry at all about the number work. So I'm going to multiply every term by 2 on the top and every term by 5 on the bottom. Now, the reason for me to do the first term and not choose to do the middle is because the middle can sometimes be quite complicated. And this means I don't have to think, is this an add question or a take question? It's going to be a take question. So I'm going to show that. Every term is going to be taken away. So if I've got 10 x's and I take away 10 x's, they're gone. That's what we want to do. We can't actually solve this whilst there's 2 different letters in it. Now, here I need to be careful. Top tip, just write it out. Just show yourself what it is you want your calculator to do. I've got a -4. I'm taking away a +15. Now, I don't have to show that positive, but I really did that in case it was negative. A positive and negative makes a negative. So I've got -4 -15, which is -19y. And then I've got 36, take -21. There it is. I've got to watch for when that happens. So that's going to end up being added, and that's giving me 57. Divide through by the -19, and I now know that y is equal to -3. I'm going to substitute back into one of the original equations. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to go with the first one just to avoid the negative decimal. But like I say, the calculator's going to do it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I've got 5x minus 2y equaling 18. I now know that my y is -3. -2 times -3 is +6. So I've got 5x plus 6 equaling 18. Take off the 6 and I've got 5x equaling 12. Divide through by the 5 and I've got my x value as 2.4. And that's it. All that's left is for me to wish you the very, very best of luck next week. Please look out for the second video. I am going to do something for my class, so I might as well share it with you guys as well. I want to include some of those extra bits and pieces that I couldn't fit into this. All right, good luck with your revision, and hopefully I'll see you in our next video.